If you are in the business of farming or growing your own food, you know that doing these things takes a lot of work, right? A lot of physical exertion at times. And if we're not in the most effective physical shape to perform these tasks, it can really become difficult and we become inefficient in our work, right? So it's not just about growing edible plants to produce healthy food, but it's also about keeping yourself in physical shape so that hopefully gardening or farming to some degree can become a little bit easier and a little bit more fun. Today, I'm going to show you one example of how I grow my own workout equipment. So what I am doing today is I am building a structure, and this structure will allow me to do the inverted pull-up. Another name for it is the Australian pull-up, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. First of all, I'm going to build it using mostly materials that I have on the local landscape. And then also, instead of putting my hands on a bar, I'm going to use ropes and toggles so that my hands can grip onto those so that I can control the height that I am from the ground a little bit more easily when I'm doing those pull-ups. Alright, so there is this sumac patch at the edge of the garden that I have here. This is also where I grow the wine caps, and I've been introducing some more fresh wood chips to hopefully serve as next year's substrate. But anyway, so I'm looking for a reasonably strong sumac sapling, right? And sumac is a relatively soft wood. It's technically a hardwood, but it's not the same strength or density of like oak or ash or anything like that. So I'm looking for a pretty good sized kind of a pole. So finding a good pole for this project is my need. But what is the need of this landscape? How can I take this pole in a way that will leave the landscape better than I found it? So I'm looking over here. This one. Now this is a reasonably good pole option here. Right, it kind of goes up there. Should be long enough for the project. You can kind of see it's the new growth from a sumac tree that had been cracked and bent over from a strong windstorm we had 2 years ago. So right there are these two sumac tree trunks, so they're kind of close together. But I'm looking over here, and you can see there are three sumac stalks that are really close together here, and they're all kind of reasonably straight because they've been competing for sunlight, so they're trying to go to the top fastest so they can get the sunlight that they need. So they grow pretty fast and pretty straight, right? They don't have the opportunity to, or the energy reserves to branch out that much. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one. Right, so the other trees around here can have a little bit more space to grow, and they can grow a little bit more fully, right? Right now, a lot of these trees are competing for resources in a not very efficient way. Next, I am cutting the pole to shape, so I'm like cutting the branches off. From a different sumac trunk, I am cutting 2 toggles, so each can fit the hand pretty comfortably. Then I carve a groove in the middle of each toggle so that the rope that I attach it to, it won't slip off or out of place. So for the rope, I'm using 550 paracord, which will be more than enough to support my weight. And I'm going to cut 2 lengths of it. I'll singe off or melt each end of each piece that I use, so that the rope doesn't fray or come apart at the ends. Okay, so now what we want to do is, in order to tie the rope to the toggle, what we need to do is we need to make a constrictor knot, which looks something like this. So now what we want to do is we take our pole, right, this one, and we want to find 2 sumac trees that are pretty close together. And so this branch that got pruned off earlier in the season makes a nice little hook there. And then so this one here is a little borderline, but you know, next year this will be good because this will thicken up as more shoots grow off of it next year, you know, and all of the weight is essentially going to be going down that way anyway. So all I did here was really just pretty much a timber hitch, and then I lashed it with a half hitch. I think I'm using those names correctly. Okay, so here is a look at the finished piece of equipment. Okay, so the pole had a bit more of a bend to it than I liked, so I decided to add some additional support. Basically, it looks like a Lincoln log effect where I'm just like cutting notches in the pieces of wood and connecting them together. I am then lashing those together so that they stay on top of the pole. Alright, so basically what I did here was I strengthened this end that was bending a little bit more. So I secured the toggle and rope to here. I would not recommend these types of lashes. Ideally what you want is to have a secure lash where you're going down and around and encompassing everything multiple times and then tying it off. But for me, right now this will suffice. So commonly, the inverted pull-up or the Australian pull-up is usually used as a precursor to the actual pull-up, right? So if you're not quite in the shape of being able to do a full pull-up, sometimes the Australian pull-up can be a good option. Now, if you have challenges with carpal tunnel or anything like that, this might not be the best exercise, as it may kind of aggravate the condition in some cases. It may depend on how you do the exercise, but that's something to consider. One tip that might help is when your hand is gripping the toggle, you use the false grip where you're holding your fingers on the toggle, but you're disengaging the thumb, right? You're not really using the thumb to hold it like that, right? So you're just using your fingers. But this inverted pull-up isn't just a precursor to the actual pull-up, but it also kind of works some other muscle groups that the traditional pull-up might not activate so much. So it doesn't have to be a precursor, but it can also be a complement. So thank you so much for checking out this video. Growing my own workout equipment has made me feel a little bit more self-sufficient, a little bit more capable when I go out there into the garden or into a landscape. And this is only one simple example of the equipment that can be made from the landscape and used. There are so many different options out there. All that you really have to do is just use your imagination with a healthy consideration of safety. I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.